我是觉得现在的规划建筑设计的教育就是要太偏重个人主义，偏重有创意。
What is most inspiring about Tiger is don't build monuments, don't build icons. Do what is organic, do what is good. Eventually, it becomes an icon.
那么你不要看他这个人才高八斗，他有2个简单的中文字他是不会写的，退休。
因为我小时候，我的所谓祖国就是中国，所以就是把中国的这种历史文化，再配合我对西方的现代文化的影响，我就希望说，一方面要体现中国文化的特色，一方面要把它提升世界级的层次。如果有了这么一个理念呢，后来我到其他地方去的，我就是在不同的地方，我就要把它各地的不同的文化的这个特色把它体现出来。所以我经常跟朋友说，我的规划方案和建筑方案没有所谓犹太客的风格，就是到不同的地方，我就要了解当地的这个文化的特色，可是用我这种比较科学的这个工作方式把它们体现出来。我是觉得现在的规划建筑设计的教育就是要太偏重个人主义，偏重有创意。可是规划这个学问是有一定的这个科学的依据的，所以我是希望说，我为了新加坡打好这么一个基础，我是希望我的接班人就是了解我当初这些基础，而且当然不是说100%不许改变，不过把这基础的要点把它保留下来。那么有些细节要去优化，这当然是我是认可的。我是希望让他们知道说，一个城市规划呢，不是说要画很漂亮的图，背后要有所谓的这个民治规划，就是背后要有真功夫。所以你看我们这次这个展览最后有一幅字我写的就是因为中国句古话就是谁知盘中餐，粒粒皆辛苦，我就补充我个人的一个苦衷，就是谁知手中厨，笔笔皆辛苦。
When China won the bid for the Olympic Games, they asked Tiger to chair the committee to select the master planner. When I read that news, I said, this is a very great responsibility and a very great honor that they are bestowing to a Singaporean. Many thoughts went through my mind. I mean, apart from congratulating Tiger. Why Singapore? Singapore, in some ways, is like a medieval free city in Europe, where the world was changing. Talented people, money flowed into the free cities, where there are room and space to develop new forms. So the future could be discerned first in these free cities. Singapore started first as a city-state. And under a strong leader, Lee Kuan Yew, and inheriting a lot of land, state-owned land from the British, because we were a garrison town. So in a sense, Lee Kuan Yew could refashion a new city. And Taika played a key role in this. And then when others began to develop their cities, naturally they looked to Singapore as a model. And when they saw Singapore, the natural question to ask is, who did this? And it was Taika. So his reputation preceded him.
刘泰阁代表的是新加坡的软力量，但是在1986年，他受邀去这个规划福州市。你要知道，1980年代的中国，大家都在抢着发展，城市发展是高速进行的，是高速期。可是刘泰阁就告诉他们，他坚持一点，就是我希望你们能够保留，我要保留福州的历史跟文化。这刚好也是他母亲的城市了。结果呢，他就成功说服了这个福州的官员，将这个非常重要的一个地标，就是三坊七巷，保留了下来，从而呢就保护了这个城市一个重要的历史记忆，一个文化根脉跟精神家园，他让福州人对他感激不尽。
我这辈子做事呢，就是很认真的做，就是事无大小我都要把它做好。比如说福州的长乐机场，刚开始我拒绝做，是因为我觉得我没有做过机场，我不应该随便接受。不过后来经过，当时他是习近平市委书记，多次的劝说呢，我就觉得一定要接受。我每次做事呢，就是入乡随俗，就是要把当地的特色体现出来。不过呢，里面的功能是一点都不妥协，一定要把它做好。
He told me many years ago, he said, we are reserving this area to be Singapore's left bank. Like Paris left bank, this is Singapore's left bank. He must have told me this 30 years ago. And we are still not seeing the full results. It may be another 20 years before we see the full results. So if we work for recognition, for credit, we will not do great work. I find what is most inspiring about Taika is don't build monuments, don't build icons. Do what is organic, do what is good. Eventually it becomes an icon.
When you design a building, I hope they will last forever for two reasons. One is to leave a memory to the people in the city. That's why in Singapore we preserve so many historical buildings, because that leaves memory of the past in Singapore. And second is that, especially in today with the world warming, global warming has become a big problem, I feel that it's even more important that we build buildings to last forever without build and then pull down and build and pull down, because that will greatly contribute to global warming. So even when I was in HTB, the expression global warming was never mentioned. But I already felt that we should build building to last rather than build to pull down. I told the engineer that even though the construction costs are low, but the structure, the building structure must be designed to last for hundreds of years. Even in those days, I was doing that. Nowadays, I tend to say that for architecture to keep its beauty, we don't just design sexy buildings, because a sexy building doesn't blend with the neighbors, and it causes a city to become very chaotic. The beauty of the building is that we must have classical beauty and not just sensational beauty. You see a lot of buildings in China, in Europe, historical buildings, that has existed for centuries. And why are they still beautiful today? Because they have the classical beauty.